The school halls were always noisy in late May. Students counted down the days until summer break, and the air felt full of excitement, and sometimes, trouble. Mr. Halley moved slowly through the main hallway, sweeping little bits of paper and gum wrappers into his dustpan. He always hummed while he worked. Nobody knew the song, but he hummed it every day. He wore the same green jacket, even when it was warm, and thick glasses that made his eyes look big. His back was bent slightly, and his steps were slow, but he never stopped moving. Most kids walked right past him like he wasn't even there. Some teachers smiled politely or nodded. A few students said good morning, but not many. Bryce Simmons was not one of those students. Bryce was popular. He was always surrounded by a group of friends, laughing at his jokes, cheering him on during gym class, and copying his attitude. He wore expensive shoes, loud cologne, and always carried his phone like it was more important than anything else. His voice carried across the hallway, loud and full of confidence. One morning, as students headed to homeroom, Bryce and his crew walked past Mr. Halley. "Careful, guys," Bryce said in a loud voice. "The ancient dino is on the loose again." His friends laughed. "Yo, Mr. Halley, you ever sweep up some bones from your dinosaur days?" Another boy called out. Mr. Halley didn't say anything. He paused for just a second, gave them a quiet look, then bent down again to keep sweeping. "Is that even English he's humming?" Bryce said. "Sounds like robot noises. Poor guy probably forgot what real music is." The hallway echoed with laughter. The narrator, a girl named Leah, was standing near her locker. She watched the scene but didn't laugh. Her stomach turned a little, but she didn't say anything either. She glanced at Mr. Halley, wondering what he felt, but his face didn't change. He just swept the next corner as if nothing had happened. Later that day, during lunch, the same group sat around the table, still joking about Mr. Halley. "He's like 100 years old," Bryce said. "Should be in a museum, not a school." Leah sat at a nearby table. She couldn't focus on her sandwich. It wasn't that she was friends with Mr. Halley. She barely even knew him. But something about the way Bryce talked made her feel uncomfortable. Mr. Halley hadn't done anything wrong. He just worked, quietly, and without bothering anyone. That afternoon, as school let out, Leah passed by the gym and saw Mr. Halley sitting alone on a bench with a rag in his hand. He was wiping dust off a trophy case. His back was to her, but she could still hear the soft humming again. The same tune, gentle, peaceful. She paused for a moment, then kept walking. She wanted to say something, maybe even just hi, but she didn't. The words stayed stuck in her throat. The next week, the school felt even busier. Final tests were done, and graduation rehearsals had started. Students filled the hallways with loud chatter and excitement. One afternoon, Leah stayed late in the library to return a book. Most students had already gone home. The school felt calm, almost quiet. As she turned to leave, she noticed Mr. Halley near the reading corner. He bent down slowly to pick up a book someone had dropped. He turned it over in his hands and gently brushed off the dust on the cover. Then something surprising happened. Mr. Halley opened the book and read a line out loud, softly but clearly. His voice didn't shake like it usually did. It was deep, calm, and strong, like a storyteller. "In darkness, light can still be found, even if only by memory," he read. Leah paused by the shelf, just out of sight. She felt like she was seeing a different person. Mr. Halley's eyes focused carefully on the page. There was a calmness in the way he read, like the words meant something special to him. Just then, the school librarian, Mrs. Parker, walked by and smiled warmly. "Still reading poetry, Professor Halley?" she asked. "Professor?" Leah peeked out from behind the shelf, confused. Mr. Halley smiled, but didn't say anything. He closed the book, gently placed it on the return cart, and stood up slowly. Leah stood frozen for a moment. She had never heard anyone call Mr. Halley Professor, and the way Mrs. Parker said it, it wasn't a joke. As Mr. Halley walked out of the library, still humming softly, Leah stepped up to the librarian. "Mrs. Parker," she asked quietly, "did you call him Professor?" Mrs. Parker looked surprised but nodded. Yes, I did. He used to teach literature at the community college years ago, she said. He was one of the best, you know. Everyone loved his classes. Leah blinked. Wait. He was a teacher, like a real professor. Mrs. Parker smiled. Yes, long before he came here. After his wife passed away, he retired early. He said he wanted to do something quiet, where he could still be around young people. Leah felt her cheeks grow warm. She thought about all the times Bryce and others had laughed at Mr. Halley, called him names, mocked his slowness. She thought about how none of them had even tried to know who he really was. As Leah walked home that day, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Mr. Halley wasn't just an old janitor who hummed strange songs. He had a past, a story, a whole life no one bothered to ask about. She felt a little sad, and also a little ashamed. Graduation rehearsal was loud and messy. Students sat in crooked rows in the gym, laughing, talking, and throwing rolled-up papers like footballs. The teachers tried to keep things in order, but it was like trying to stop the wind. Leah sat in the second row, watching Bryce goof off as usual. He wore sunglasses indoors, and pretended to trip over a chair, making his friends burst out laughing. Every moment felt like a performance for him. Can't wait for this to be over, Bryce said. Then I never have to look at this dusty old place again. As if on cue, Mr. Halley appeared near the side entrance, pushing a mop cart. His jacket sleeves were rolled up, and his steps were slower than usual today. He moved carefully, heading toward a puddle of spilled water someone had knocked over near the back row. Bryce spotted him, and nudged his friend, grinning. Watch this, he whispered. He stepped toward the puddle, acting innocent. Then with a sly glance behind him, he slid his foot across the edge of the spill, splashing water onto the clean floor, and making it look like a bigger mess. Mr. Halley stepped forward, not noticing Bryce's trick. He reached out with his mop, but the wet floor was too slick. His foot slipped. He stumbled. The room went silent for half a second, then gasps echoed. Mr. Halley caught himself with one hand against the wall, barely keeping from falling. A few teachers rushed over. Leah's heart jumped in her chest. Bryce smirked. Whoa, that was close, huh? Maybe he needs a cane. Leah looked around. No one laughed this time. Even Bryce's friends looked uneasy. One quietly turned away. Mr. Halley stood up straight, brushing off his jacket. He looked at Bryce, eyes tired but calm. One day, he said softly, you'll learn that being loud doesn't make you strong. The words hung in the air. Before anyone could speak, the principal entered the gym. What's going on here? He asked. One of the teachers quickly explained about the puddle. Mr. Halley didn't speak. He simply nodded and began mopping again. The principal sighed. Mr. Halley, please make sure this area is clean before we restart. Leah felt a lump in her throat. It wasn't fair. He was being blamed, again, and he didn't even defend himself. That evening, Leah sat quietly at the kitchen table, her fork still on her plate. Her mom, who worked at the local hospital, noticed her silence. Tough day, her mom asked gently. Leah nodded. Mom, do you know Mr. Halley, the janitor at school? Her mom smiled a little. You mean David Halley? Of course I do. He taught your aunt years ago at the college. Brilliant man. After his wife passed, he started working at the school, said it gave him peace. Leah blinked. He chose to work there? Her mom nodded. He said cleaning the halls wasn't beneath him. He liked hearing students laugh, even if they didn't know who he used to be. Leah's heart felt heavy. The teasing, the jokes, it all seemed so much worse now. Mr. Halley wasn't just some quiet old man. He was someone who had once stood at the front of a classroom, teaching poetry and wisdom. Someone who had lost something, and still found a way to keep going. She looked out the window at the setting sun. Something inside her changed. She couldn't stay silent anymore. The gym looked different that day. Balloons hung from the ceiling, and rows of chairs were lined up neatly. A large banner read, "Congratulations, Class of 2025. The sound of chatter filled the air, as students fixed their gowns and practiced walking across the stage. Leah sat with her classmates, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Everyone was waiting for the ceremony to begin. Parents filled the bleachers. Teachers stood proudly near the front. Bryce was walking up and down the aisle, sunglasses on again, showing off his speech to anyone who would listen. "This is gonna be the best graduation speech in school history," he bragged. "Everyone's gonna remember it." He winked at a group of girls and straightened his tie. Mr. Halley walked slowly down the side aisle, picking up scraps of paper and quietly moving chairs into perfect lines. Most people didn't notice him. Some didn't even realize he was there. Leah watched him carefully. He looked calm as always, humming his quiet tune. But she noticed his hand trembled a little as he moved. "Hey Leah," Bryce said, strolling over. "Ready to graduate from this dump?" Before she could answer, he glanced at Mr. Halley. "Man, he's still here," Bryce muttered. "He's gonna sweep right through my speech." Leah frowned. "You shouldn't talk about him like that." Bryce raised an eyebrow. "What? It's just a joke." "No, it's not," Leah said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. "You think being mean is funny, but it just makes you look small." Bryce rolled his eyes. "Whatever." Just then the principal stepped up to the microphone. "Welcome everyone. Please take your seats." As the students sat, Leah saw the principal frown and tapped the microphone again. There was no sound. "Uh-oh," someone whispered. "Mic's broken?" The tech teacher rushed up. He bent behind the podium, pressing buttons. "Nothing." He shook his head and looked around helplessly. The room grew quiet and tense. Parents murmured. The principal looked embarrassed. Out of nowhere, Mr. Halley stepped forward. He walked slowly up to the podium and knelt beside the wires. His old hands moved with surprising speed, untangling cords and adjusting the settings. The tech teacher leaned down. "Need help, Mr. Halley?" "No," he said gently. "I've done this before." A few moments passed. Then with a soft crackle, the microphone came to life. The room filled with surprised gasps. The teacher stared. "Thanks, Professor Halley." This time everyone heard it. Leah saw heads turn. People began whispering. "Did he say professor?" Bryce's eyes widened. Mr. Halley stood, gave a small nod, and stepped back into the shadows. The principal smiled and continued. "Thank you again, Mr. Halley. Now our class speaker, Bryce Simmons, will begin." Bryce walked up, but he wasn't smiling anymore. His shoulders seemed lower, his steps slower. He looked out at the crowd, then at the microphone Mr. Halley had just fixed. He started his speech, but his voice shook. Good afternoon, everyone," he mumbled. Today's a big day. We're all, moving on." Some students shifted in their seats. The energy was different now. Bryce stumbled through the speech. No jokes, no big laughs. He rushed through the last paragraph and walked off without looking at anyone. The crowd clapped politely. Then something surprising happened. Leah stood up. "Thank you, Mr. Halley," she said out loud. Her voice rang clear through the gym. People turned. Some students looked confused, but others started clapping with her. Mr. Halley, standing near the back wall, looked surprised. Then he gave a small smile and nodded. The clapping grew louder. Even the teachers joined in. For the first time it felt like everyone really saw him. Leah's chest felt warm, not from pride, but from something better, respect. She hadn't fixed anything, but she had spoken up, and maybe that was enough. After the ceremony, the gym slowly emptied. Students hugged their friends and took pictures in front of the banner. Parents wiped away happy tears, and the air buzzed with laughter and congratulations. Leah stood near the bleachers, holding her diploma. Her cheeks still felt warm from earlier, but this time it wasn't nerves, it was something better. She looked around for Mr. Halley, and finally spotted him near the back doors, putting away chairs. He was alone again. She walked over slowly. "Mr. Halley." He turned around. His face was calm, as usual, but his eyes held something soft, like he already knew what she was going to say. "Thank you," Leah said. "For everything. For fixing the mic, and for just being here." He smiled, just a little. "I'm glad I was." She hesitated. "I didn't know you used to be a professor." He chuckled lightly. "A long time ago. These days I'm just a man with a mop and a good pair of shoes." Leah smiled. "I think you're a lot more than that." Mr. Halley looked at her kindly. "Kindness costs nothing," he said, but it means everything. That's something I used to tell my students. I guess I still do. Leah nodded. His words felt simple, but powerful, like they stuck to her heart. Just then, Bryce came walking out of the building. His sunglasses were gone, and his usual confident walk was slower. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets. For once he wasn't surrounded by friends. He saw Mr. Halley, and paused. His eyes flicked toward Leah, then back to the ground. After a long moment, he stepped forward. Mr. Halley, Bryce said, his voice low. I was kind of a jerk. I guess I thought it was funny. He looked up, ashamed. It wasn't. Mr. Halley studied him for a second, then nodded. It takes courage to say sorry, he said gently. You'll remember that one day. Bryce gave a small, awkward smile. Thanks for fixing the mic. Mr. Halley nodded again and returned to stacking the chairs, as if nothing had happened. Bryce gave Leah a quick glance, then walked off without another word. Leah stood still for a moment, watching Mr. Halley work. The sun was setting outside the gym, casting golden light through the windows. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. Everything felt quiet, but not empty. Peaceful. She realized something then, how easy it had been to join the crowd, to stay silent, to laugh at someone just because everyone else was doing it. But now, after everything, she knew better. People aren't always what they seem. Some have stories behind their eyes that you'll never understand unless you take the time to look. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room has the biggest strength of all. Leah turned to leave, holding her diploma a little tighter. She didn't feel just proud to graduate. She felt proud to grow. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect and share your thoughts in the comments. Like this story if you believe everyone deserves respect, no matter their role or age. Subscribe for more heartfelt stories that remind us of the hidden strength in everyday people.